Chladni figures are a phenomenon named after their discoverer, Ernst Chladni. He was a scientist who lived around the turn of the 19th century who discovered that if you take a metal plate, his was a square, and you pin it in the middle, and then you vibrate it with a violin bow, it makes a standing wave in the metal. What he did to study these was put sand on top of them. The sand collects at the nodes of the standing waves, and it makes this really interesting Chladni figures. So we were inspired to make this when we were looking at, surfaces and the heat equation specifically in linearity, and actually makes these really cool surfaces that reminded us of videos we'd seen of Chladni figures. So when the time came to make a project, naturally we thought, well, Chladni figures are probably something we could study mathematically. Little did we know, however, back in, I think, 1907, Napoleon Bonaparte actually put out a bounty for 1 kilogram of gold for someone who could mathematically explain the shapes of these figures. We're going to try to now. But first, let me show you a couple of videos of Chladni figures that we created ourselves with an oscillator and some salt. So as it turns out, the mathematics for solving for the eigensolutions of a fixed membrane, which is the del squared relation, is actually pretty easy with separation of variables, and you can see those models here. However, those really aren't a very good model of our Chladni figures. Chladni figures themselves are actually created by these zero crossings of the eigenfunctions of the characteristic equations of a vibrating plate. That's a lot of words to unpack, but we'll work through it right now. So eigenfunctions are the shapes of which a linear combination of them oscillate at any frequency. So a certain standing wave frequency will excite a certain standing wave pattern called an eigensolution much more than any others, and Chladni figures form when you find a particularly strong one, so you're getting it right at its resonant mode. Now these eigensolutions are eigensolutions of the characteristic equation of a vibrating plate. The biharmonic Laplacian of a function equals the second time derivative of that function. Del squared f equals f double dot. This is similar to the characteristic equation for a membrane, which is fixed at all the edges, which is del squared f equals f double dot. However, it is very different in that the del to the fourth is of much higher order than the del squared, which comes from actually the fact that a bending plate isn't just tensions, it's got shears and moments and things like that, which make us need some higher order terms in order to fully explain what those are. Unfortunately for us, that makes the math a lot harder. If you'd like to watch how we did that math, I recommend reading our paper. It turns out that solving this correctly is an NP-hard problem, and we weren't really able to figure out how to do it symbolically. But we've got tons of further reading links for you to check out at the end of our paper. There's a whole bunch of really interesting math on this. There's a whole field of mathematics called plate theory that we've just scratched the surface of.